The stars stretched like endless rivers of silver around the ship Vanguard, gliding through the silent sea of space. Inside its steel walls stood Captain Elias Ward, a man who had faced both the darkness of war and the loneliness of peace. He was a soldier from Earth, strong, calm, and trained to protect lives no matter the distance from home. Elias had served the Terran Defense Corps for 15 years. He had fought pirates near Jupiter's moons, guarded scientists on Mars, and rescued colonists from burning stations. His body carried scars, but his heart carried more. Memories of friends lost in battles that history already forgot. Yet even after all those missions, he had never guarded anyone like Princess Alara of the Aelorian Empire. The Aelorians were a race known across the galaxy for their beauty, wisdom, and deep love for peace. Their worlds shimmered with light, their people spoke softly, and their art was said to calm even the wildest minds. But they were not soldiers. They had forgotten how to fight centuries ago when they chose harmony over conflict. And now, that choice had made them vulnerable. The Galactic Union had sent Elias as part of a diplomatic escort team to protect the princess during her journey to the Unity Summit, a meeting that could end the cold tensions between powerful empires. For humans, this was a chance to prove themselves, show that Earth was not only strong but trustworthy. For Elias, it was just another mission, or so he thought. He first saw Princess Alara when she stepped onto the Vanguard. She was tall and graceful, with silver hair that flowed like liquid light and eyes that shimmered with soft blue warmth. Her movements were careful, her voice calm. She smiled politely at everyone, but there was something fragile behind that smile, like glass that could break if touched too harshly. Elias saluted as she approached. "Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Defense Corps, reporting for duty, Your Highness." Her gaze lingered on him for a moment longer than expected. "A human," she said softly. "I have read of your people. You are..." "Resilient," Elias gave a small nod. "We try to be, ma'am." Her faint smile returned. "Then I trust we will be safe in your hands." The mission began quietly. The princess and her attendants occupied the upper deck, while Elias and his security team handled patrols. The Aelorian guards that traveled with them looked elegant in silver uniforms, but seemed more ceremonial than ready for combat. They carried weapons but held them as if they were afraid to use them. Elias respected their peaceful ways, but deep down he worried. For 3 days the voyage was calm. The stars were gentle, and the hum of the ship was the only sound that filled the long corridors. Elias spent his nights reviewing patrol routes and his days checking the princess's safety logs. He wasn't a man who needed much sleep. Duty always came first, but peace never lasted long in space. On the 4th night, alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed across every corridor. Elias was already running before the voice came through the comms. "Unidentified vessels approaching, 3 of them. They're closing in fast." Elias barked orders, his voice firm and steady. "Raise shields. Seal the royal deck. Get the princess to the secure chamber now." The attackers were space raiders, notorious pirates who targeted diplomatic convoys for ransom. Their ships fired bursts of plasma that rocked the Vanguard like a toy in a storm. The Aelorian guards panicked, unsure how to react. But Elias moved like instinct. He grabbed his pulse rifle, stormed through the corridor, and took command. "Positions. Keep your heads down. We're not dying today." He coordinated the defense with military precision, directing human and Aelorian guards together. The pirates breached the side hangar, but Elias was already waiting. Plasma bolts cut through the air, lighting the steel hallways in flashes of blue and white. Elias moved between cover points, his aim perfect, his voice calm even as chaos filled the air. When one of the raiders broke through toward the upper deck, Elias sprinted after him. He reached the royal corridor just as the pirate forced the door open to the princess's quarters. Inside, Alara stood frozen beside her mother's royal insignia case, her silver gown glowing under the emergency lights. The pirate raised his weapon toward her. Elias didn't hesitate. He threw himself forward, tackling the intruder to the ground. The two crashed into a wall. The pirate tried to fire, but Elias grabbed his arm and twisted until the weapon clattered to the floor. A punch, a kick, and another strike. The fight ended quickly. The pirate fell unconscious. Elias turned to the princess. "Are you hurt, Your Highness?" Her eyes were wide with shock, her voice trembling. "No, I'm fine." "But your shoulder," he looked down. A burning line of plasma had grazed his armor. The metal was smoking, but he ignored it. "I've had worse." The princess took a shaky breath. "You saved me." You didn't even think twice. That's my job, Elias said quietly. To protect you. For a moment, neither spoke. The noise of the battle outside faded as the Vanguard's crew finally drove the raiders away, but inside that room something changed. Princess Alara, who had grown up in a world of peace and caution, had just witnessed what human courage looked like. It was not careful. It was fierce, immediate, and alive. After the battle, the ship limped to safety under escort from nearby Union ships. Casualties were few thanks to Elias's quick commands. The princess sent him a personal message requesting his presence in her chamber. When he arrived, she stood near the window looking out at the stars. "Captain Ward," she said softly, "you risked your life without hesitation. Elorians would have tried to negotiate first. You acted. Why?" Elias thought for a moment before answering. "Because danger doesn't wait for peace, Your Highness. Sometimes the only way to protect peace is to stand between it and harm." Her eyes shone with quiet respect. "Humans truly are different," he shrugged. "Different doesn't always mean better, just used to surviving." She turned fully toward him then, her expression both grateful and curious. "Still, you saved me, and my people will not forget that." Elias nodded, unsure what to say. Compliments made him uncomfortable. He preferred orders to gratitude. But as he looked at the princess, he felt something strange, a connection that was more than duty. She reminded him of the civilians he had once protected on Mars, people who believed in something pure even when the universe didn't. Later, when the Vanguard reached Eloria Prime, the shining world of the Elorian Empire, Elias expected to be dismissed. His mission was over, and he was ready to return to Earth. But as the royal guards escorted him through the crystal corridors of the palace, he sensed that something else awaited him. Queen Seraphine, Alara's mother, sat upon a throne of silver light. Her presence was calm yet powerful, her eyes sharp despite her gentle tone. She rose as Elias entered. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice echoing softly in the grand hall. "You saved my daughter's life. That is a debt I can never repay." Elias bowed slightly. "I only did my duty, Your Majesty." "Duty," she repeated with a faint smile. "A simple word. Yet it is the reason my child still breathes." She studied him for a long moment, as if searching for something within his soul. "I have read about humans, your strength, your determination, your heart. I see now that those stories were true." Elias felt uneasy under her gaze. "You honor me, ma'am." The Queen stepped closer. "I wish to speak with you again, Captain. There is more to discuss. Much more. For now, rest. You are among friends." As Elias left the throne room, he glanced back once. The Queen and the Princess were speaking quietly, their expressions serious. Something told him that this was not the end of his mission. The stars beyond the palace windows shimmered brightly, like they knew a new story was beginning, one that would test the courage of a single human and change the fate of two worlds forever. The halls of the Crystal Palace stretched endlessly, their surfaces reflecting light in colors that seemed impossible to the human eye. Captain Elias Ward walked through them, his boots echoing faintly on the smooth floor. Though he had seen stars, ships, and war zones, nothing had prepared him for the beauty of the Aelorian capital. Towers of transparent crystal rose into the sky, and gardens floated in mid-air, their blossoms shimmering with an energy that humans could not understand. Elias had expected the Queen to dismiss him once the mission ended. Instead, he found a summons waiting, an invitation to meet Queen Seraphine in her private chambers. That alone piqued his curiosity. Nothing in his training had prepared him for the subtle strategies of royalty. The chamber doors slid open silently, and Elias stepped inside. The room was vast, circular, and adorned with flowing light sculptures that seemed to dance in place. Queen Seraphine sat upon a throne that glowed faintly from beneath, her posture regal and serene. Her silver hair fell over her shoulders, and her eyes held a depth that seemed to see everything at once. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice soft but commanding, "thank you for accepting my summons." Elias bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I only did what was necessary. The princess's safety was my duty." Seraphine studied him, tilting her head. "Necessary?" she repeated. "Perhaps for a human it is instinct. For an Aelorian, instinct is tempered by caution. You acted without hesitation. That is unusual." Elias frowned slightly. "I acted to protect life. There was no time for hesitation. The Queen's gaze softened. You are different from the stories humans tell. Your courage, your decisiveness, it is rare among even your own species. And yet here you are in my halls willing to protect my daughter, who is trained only in diplomacy. He remained silent. There was no pride in his voice, only truth. You have seen how fragile our world is, the Queen continued. We value peace above all, but we have forgotten strength. It is a lesson you are teaching us without even realizing it. Elias's jaw tightened. He had never sought recognition. His life had been about survival, duty, and protecting others, not teaching lessons. Yet hearing this from an alien queen, in a voice that did not command but observed, made him pause. Your Highness, he said finally, I only hope I did enough. You did more than enough, she replied. And yet I feel the danger is not over. My spies report movements beyond our borders, groups that see peace as weakness. Your human heart, your experience, may be the shield we need before the storm comes. Elias felt a cold, familiar weight settle in his chest. He had faced storms before, space battles, planetary raids, countless fights where failure meant death. But this was different. The danger was not immediate, yet it was closer than anyone could imagine. Your Majesty, he said, my mission was to protect the princess until she reached safety. That mission is complete. I can return to Earth. Seraphine's expression hardened slightly. You are too modest, Captain. The princess's journey was only the beginning. There are threats hidden in the shadows, waiting to strike when we least expect it, and my people are not trained for war. They trust peace too much, but you embody what they have forgotten. Elias swallowed. He had faced enemies who would destroy entire colonies without hesitation, and yet he had never felt the same weight he felt in that room. The weight of responsibility not only for one life, but for an entire world. I see, he said slowly. You want me to stay? Seraphine inclined her head. Not as a guard, Captain. Not merely to defend. I would have you remain as a teacher, as a guide, as a reminder of what courage can do. My daughter will need it, and so will my people. The words hung in the air, heavy yet filled with trust. Elias had spent his life fighting battles that mattered only for the moment, saving lives that would soon be forgotten. Here someone asked him to fight differently. Not with weapons alone, but with example, with presence, and with the unyielding determination that had defined him on Earth. He hesitated. His life had been simple in its clarity. Follow orders, protect, survive. This was a different kind of duty. But as he glanced toward the large window, he saw Princess Alara, standing nearby, watching him with quiet hope in her eyes. She had been through a terrifying ordeal, yet her gaze carried trust and confidence in him. A human from another world, who had risked everything for her. Elias realized something then. The Queen's request was not merely political. It was personal, and it was necessary. I will stay, he said at last. Seraphine's eyes softened, a faint smile breaking through her composed exterior. Thank you, Captain. That is all I ask. Your presence here may shape the future of my people more than you can imagine. Elias nodded, though his mind raced. He had not yet seen the full scope of what awaited him. Threats beyond the stars, conspiracies in shadows, forces that would test the limits of human courage. Yet in that moment he felt the quiet certainty that he had made the right choice. The Queen gestured toward a nearby seat. Come, let us speak further. You will need to understand our ways, and I will need to understand yours. As he sat, Elias noticed the subtle intricacies of the palace. Lights that responded to presence, floors that seemed to guide movement, walls that captured sound like memory. Every detail spoke of a civilization that had mastered beauty, intellect, and diplomacy. But beneath it all, he sensed vulnerability, the same vulnerability he had protected in Princess Alara. Over the next hours, Seraphine spoke of Aelorian history. Tales of a time when her people had defended their worlds with courage and strength, and how peace had softened them over centuries. They spoke of alliances, threats, and subtle dangers lurking beyond the Union's gaze. Elias listened, absorbing everything, offering insights when needed. His human experience brought clarity to their abstract strategies, turning theory into action, weakness into preparedness. Princess Alara joined them later, asking questions and learning tactics. She listened to Elias with curiosity, watching how he combined patience with decisiveness. She had grown up in a society where conflict was a story in history books, not a daily reality. Seeing him, she realized that courage was not simply fighting. It was knowing what must be done and acting, no matter the fear. By the time night fell over Eloria Prime, Elias had not only agreed to remain, but he had begun to understand the weight of his new role. He was not just a protector. He was a symbol of what humanity represented: courage, determination, and the unbreakable will to defend what mattered most. Queen Seraphine finally stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "Rest now, Captain Ward. Tomorrow we begin the work that will prepare my people for the future." "You will not be idle here," Elias nodded, standing. "I will not rest until I understand what is needed." As he left the chamber and walked through the palace corridors, he realized that this was more than a mission. It was the beginning of a story that could change worlds, not with war alone, but with the enduring strength of a human heart. Princess Alara met him in a smaller hall, a smile lighting her face. "Thank you," she said softly. "Not just for protecting me, but for staying. It means more than words can say." Elias gave a small shrug. "It's not bravery. It's responsibility. If I can help, I will. That's all." And yet, as he gazed out at the city glowing under twin moons, he felt something he had rarely allowed himself: hope. Hope that the courage of one human could inspire an entire civilization, that his choices could shape not only survival, but growth, and that perhaps in this distant galaxy, humanity had a place not just to fight, but to guide, to teach, and to inspire. Outside, the stars watched silently, their light reflecting off the crystal towers like countless eyes witnessing the beginning of a new alliance. A bond forged not only by diplomacy, but by trust, courage, and the enduring human spirit. Captain Elias Ward, protector, soldier, and now teacher, took his first steps into a world that would challenge everything he knew, and in doing so, would reveal the true strength of a human heart. Days passed on Eloria Prime, and Captain Elias Ward settled into his new role. The crystal towers of the capital glittered in the twin suns, but behind their beauty, Elias could sense the vulnerability of a civilization that had forgotten how to defend itself. He had spent countless years on battlefields where survival was measured in seconds and strategy in split decisions. Here he faced a different challenge, teaching a people who had never known fear how to confront it without shattering their spirit. The Queen had granted him full access to her palace and military advisors. Every morning Elias would convene with Princess Alara and a select group of Valorian guards. Their weapons were elegant, sleek energy rifles and crystalline shields, but their use was foreign to the bearers. The guards moved with hesitation, careful not to harm their peers, careful not to make mistakes. Elias observed them, silent at first, understanding that fear was not weakness. It was simply untested courage. "You must act without doubt," he said one morning, demonstrating a defensive maneuver with his pulse rifle. "Hesitation kills. If you think about failing, you will. If you act even imperfectly, you may survive. Remember that." The guards flinched at the sound of the weapon's discharge, though it was harmless, a training pulse. Princess Alara watched intently, her eyes absorbing every movement. "It is so different from how we were taught," she admitted. "We value caution over action." "Caution is good," Elias replied, "but not when danger strikes. Then you need courage." He paused, letting the words sink in. Courage isn't just about fighting, it's about standing for what matters even when you are afraid. Slowly, the guards began to mirror his movements. Their initial stiffness melted into controlled, purposeful motion. Elias saw sparks of pride in their faces, small but growing. For the first time, the people of Eloria began to realize that strength could coexist with their love of peace. But Elias knew that training alone was not enough. Threats waited beyond the veil of the stars in regions too distant for the Union to monitor closely. The Queen had hinted at spies, rumors of movement, and whispers of a shadowy group known only as the Veiled Dominion. Elias needed concrete information. He requested access to the palace's intelligence network. Screens lit up displaying holographic maps of the outer systems. Small red indicators blinked in sectors far from Eloria's patrol routes, signs of movement, possibly staging areas for an attack. The patterns were subtle but clear to a trained eye. "These ships," Elias said, pointing to the blinking lights, "are organized. Coordinated. They aren't just pirates, they have discipline. If they reach Aloria, they will not negotiate. They will strike to conquer. Princess Alara leaned closer, her voice quiet but firm. Then we must be ready. But how can we fight a force like that when we have only known peace? Elias met her gaze. You fight with what you have, and you learn to fight with what you don't yet know. That's what I am here for. The days turned into weeks. Training intensified, blending Alorian philosophy with human pragmatism. Elias taught the guards small unit tactics, ways to move silently, to anticipate danger, to strike when necessary. He emphasized teamwork, teaching them that the strength of many could overcome the skill of a few. Princess Alara practiced alongside them, learning the rhythm of defense and the sharpness of observation. Elias noticed how quickly she absorbed knowledge, how her mind connected strategy to intuition. She was a natural leader, just as her mother had predicted. Yet, despite the training, Elias sensed unease. The Veiled Dominion had not revealed itself openly, but their presence loomed. Intelligence reports indicated sudden disappearances on border worlds, encrypted messages intercepted from unknown sources, and sightings of strange energy signatures near remote colonies. Every detail painted a picture of a slow, calculated advance. Elias's instincts told him the attack would come sooner than expected. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Elias stood on a balcony overlooking the floating gardens of the palace. Princess Alara joined him silently, her expression reflective. They look so peaceful from here, she said, gesturing to the glowing towers and levitating trees. It is hard to imagine anyone wanting to destroy this. Elias nodded, gazing at the horizon. Peace can make people forget that there is danger out there, but just because something looks beautiful doesn't mean it is safe. She frowned. Do humans always face danger like this? More than most can imagine, he said. But we survive. And sometimes surviving teaches us something. Courage, loyalty, strength. These are lessons we carry with us. Alara looked at him, her eyes serious. You carry more than lessons, Captain. You carry hope. I see it in the guards and the people who watch you. You make them believe they can stand. Elias felt a quiet warmth at her words, though he hid it behind a neutral expression. Hope was a fragile thing, yet essential. It inspired courage even in those who had never fought before. And in that moment he realized that his mission had evolved. He was no longer just a protector. He was a teacher, a guide, and a beacon. The next day, a message arrived from the intelligence network. The Veiled Dominion had moved closer. Their ships were forming a loose blockade at the edge of Aelorian space, testing defenses. Elias gathered the Queen, Princess Alara, and the lead guards in the strategy chamber. This is not a minor threat, he said, pointing at the holographic map. They are testing us, looking for weaknesses. If we do not respond, they will exploit them. We need readiness on every level: shields, personnel, strategy, and morale. The Queen's eyes were calm but sharp. And the people? She asked. They need to believe, Elias said firmly. Not just in me, but in themselves. I can show them how, but they must choose to stand. Princess Alara spoke next. Then we will stand. We will not let fear dictate our actions, Elias nodded. It was the first sign of determination that rivaled his own. The bond between teacher and student had begun, and it would shape the events to come. Training intensified further. Guards ran drills in zero-gravity simulators, practiced rapid response maneuvers, and learned to think tactically. Elias demonstrated every exercise himself, showing both skill and willingness to endure the same dangers. It was not enough to speak. One had to lead by example. The Aelorians grew stronger. Hesitant movements became confident strikes. Careful calculations became bold decisions. Their culture of peace did not vanish. It evolved, guided by the courage of a single human. Elias watched quietly, proud but cautious. The Veiled Dominion was patient, and patience would be tested soon. One night, as Elias patrolled the palace perimeter, he spotted faint anomalies in the sky, ships cloaked in shadow, moving silently but deliberately. His pulse quickened, not in fear but in readiness. The Veiled Dominion had begun to reveal themselves. He contacted the Queen and the Princess. They're here, he said simply. The test has begun. Seraphine's calm eyes met his. Then we act. The future of Aeloria depends not only on strength, but on courage. Show them what it means to defend peace. Elias's hand rested on the railing. He thought of Earth, of wars fought and lives saved, of lessons learned in fire and darkness. Then he looked at the city below, at the people who had never faced true conflict but were now ready to stand. The Veiled Dominion would soon discover that courage, loyalty, and determination were not limited to humans, but when a human led the way, even a civilization that had forgotten war could rise to meet any challenge. Princess Alara stepped beside him. "Will we survive?" she asked softly. Elias placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "We will, not because it is easy, but because we must, and because together, we are stronger than anyone who thinks peace means weakness." The stars blinked coldly beyond the crystal towers, but inside the palace hearts beat with resolve, minds sharpened with strategy, and one human prepared to teach an entire civilization how to fight, not for conquest, but for survival and hope. In the weeks to follow, training would continue, alliances would be tested, and the first battle would loom ever closer. Elias knew the coming days would demand everything he had, and that the strength of a single human could ignite courage in an entire world. And so, with the shadow of the Veiled Dominion approaching, the people of Aeloria, guided by their earthborn protector, began to prepare not just for survival, but for the defining test of their civilization. Humanity had arrived not to dominate but to inspire, and the universe would soon see the true power of courage born of the human heart. The sky over Eloria Prime darkened, not from clouds or storms, but from ships. The Veiled Dominion had arrived, their dark vessels blotting out the light of the twin suns. Red warning lights flashed across the palace, echoing throughout the city. Citizens ran to shelters while the Elorian defense fleet scrambled to organize themselves. Captain Elias Ward stood at the command balcony, overlooking the chaos below. His pulse was steady, his mind sharp. He had trained the Aelorian guards for weeks, instilling courage, strategy, and the lessons of human combat. Now the test had come. The Veiled Dominion was no longer a rumor. They were here, and Aeloria's fate hung in the balance. Queen Seraphine appeared beside him, her posture calm but resolute. "They are stronger than we imagined," she said. "Our fleet is skilled but not prepared for this level of attack." Elias nodded. "That's why we fight smart, not just hard. Aeloria may be peaceful, but we can use our strengths. We know our city, our terrain, and our technology. They don't. And that advantage matters." Princess Alara joined them, her uniform slightly torn from the evacuation drills, but her eyes bright with determination. "Captain Ward," she said, "what do we do first?" He pointed to the holographic map hovering between them. "Divide and confuse them. Draw their main fleet into traps we've prepared, where our shields and weapons give us the upper hand. Use our speed and maneuverability. And never forget, every Aelorian here is capable of bravery even if they have not yet tested it. Trust them and they will follow." Alara nodded, determination settling on her face. "We will not let them win." The first ships of the Veiled Dominion breached the outer defenses. Plasma blasts lit the skies and the distant hum of engines filled the air. The Aelorian fleet faltered initially, their hesitation evident. But Elias's voice carried through comms, calm yet commanding. "Focus on coordination. Use your formation. Do not fear them, they fear you already." The guards, trained to value peace over conflict, hesitated no longer. Inspired by Elias's presence, they maneuvered with precision. Energy shields raised at perfect angles, deflecting plasma bursts. Fighters moved in synchronized patterns, creating openings for counterattacks. Elias led a small strike team through one of the blockade points, targeting a cluster of enemy ships attempting to flank the palace. His pulse rifle cut through enemy drones, and his hand signals directed Aelorian pilots to exploit weaknesses in the Dominion's formation. One by one, enemy ships fell or retreated, caught in traps they could not have anticipated. The city below remained intact, its crystal towers shining, a beacon of hope amid the chaos. On the ground, the palace defenders faced another challenge. The Dominion had deployed a small landing force, shadowy exosuits moving with precision, aiming to reach the royal chambers. Elias led a squad of Aelorian guards against them. "Stay together! Cover each other!" he shouted, firing at advancing enemies with precise efficiency. The Aelorian guards mirrored his moves, their confidence growing with every strike. One young guard, barely trained in combat, blocked a strike from an enemy with his shield and returned a counterattack. Elias saw the spark of courage and smiled slightly. Princess Alara joined the defense team, coordinating from a vantage point. "Focus fire on the right flank. Do not let them breach the main hall." Her voice carried authority that the guards followed without hesitation. Elias realized that she had absorbed his teachings as much as the guards had. She was not merely a princess. She was a leader forged by circumstance and human guidance. The battle raged across the palace grounds, every corridor and courtyard a test of strategy and courage. Elias moved with precision, protecting key points, directing troops, and striking when necessary. Even when outnumbered, he remained calm, showing the Aelorians that fear was only a choice. They could choose to act despite it. In space, the main fleet of the Veiled Dominion attempted to breach the palace's outer orbit. Elias coordinated Aelorian pilots with Earth technology advisors, forming ambush points and exploiting blind spots in enemy formations. "Flank left. Cut off their retreat," Elias commanded over the comms. "Hold the center. Do not let them pass." The Dominion's flagship approached, massive and foreboding. Elias knew that if it reached the surface, the battle could be lost. He volunteered to lead a small strike team directly against it, relying on speed and coordination rather than brute force. "Elias," Alara said, her voice firm but worried. "Are you certain?" "This is dangerous," he interrupted gently. "I know the risk, but if I don't act, our people may not survive. I will draw their attention, and your forces will follow through the openings we've created. Trust in what we've built together." Alara nodded. "We trust you." The strike team launched toward the Dominion flagship. Plasma blasts lit the void as they dodged incoming fire, weaving between the massive ships. Elias's team targeted critical systems, disabling shields, engines, and weapons. The Dominion crew was skilled, but they had underestimated the ingenuity and courage of a human leading aliens who had never fought before. Elias boarded the flagship with his team, moving through corridors filled with enemy soldiers. His tactics were precise, teaching his Aelorian companions to act decisively. One by one, the Dominion soldiers were neutralized or captured. When Elias reached the bridge, he faced the enemy leader, a towering figure in black armor exuding authority and confidence. "You are human," the leader said, voice amplified by the helmet. "You are alone." Elias stood tall, pulse rifle ready. "I am not alone. Courage and loyalty are with me, and they are stronger than you realize." The duel was brief but decisive. Elias used strategy, speed, and determination to incapacitate the enemy leader, disabling the flagship's command systems. The Dominion fleet, now leaderless and disoriented, began to retreat, falling into traps set by the Aelorian fleet. Back on Aeloria Prime, the city erupted in cheers as the Dominion ships fled. Citizens poured into the streets, marveling at the bravery of the palace defenders and their human captain. Guards who had doubted themselves weeks ago now stood proud, their confidence cemented in fire and success. Queen Seraphine appeared before her people, her voice carrying authority and emotion. "Today we have defended not only our city, but our future, and we have learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. Thanks to Captain Elias Ward, our people have found strength they had forgotten." Princess Alara approached Elias, her eyes shining. "You taught us more than strategy or tactics. You taught us what it means to stand for something. I cannot thank you enough." Elias shook his head. "You all stood because you chose to. I only showed you the way. The courage was always inside you." Seraphine placed a hand on his shoulder. "You will not leave us, Captain. Your presence has saved more than my daughter or my city. You have saved the spirit of Aeloria." Elias looked out over the city, glowing under the light of the twin moons. He thought of Earth, of battles fought, of lessons learned in distant worlds. Here, he had taught an entire civilization to believe in themselves, to act despite fear, and to find strength in unity. The Veiled Dominion may return, he knew, But for now the city was safe and hope burned brighter than ever. Eloria had learned that peace was not weakness, that courage could coexist with compassion, and that one human could ignite a revolution of spirit across the stars. Elias stood quietly, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. A rare feeling. The city of Eloria Prime glimmered under the soft light of the twin moons, its crystal towers shining like beacons across the horizon. The battle against the Veiled Dominion had ended in victory, but the aftermath brought a different kind of challenge, rebuilding trust, strengthening defenses, and guiding a civilization that had rediscovered courage. Captain Elias Ward walked through the palace corridors, observing the activity below. Citizens and guards moved with purpose, repairing damaged structures, tending to those who were hurt, and training for any future threats. For weeks he had led them in combat drills, strategy sessions, and simulations. Now he watched the people he had helped shape into defenders of their world. Pride settled quietly in his chest, though he did not display it. Queen Seraphine summoned him to the grand hall, her presence regal and calm as always. The throne room had been restored, sparkling with renewed energy. Citizens crowded in the hall, eager to witness the ceremony she had prepared. Today, Elias was not just a soldier. He would be recognized for what he had accomplished and, unexpectedly, asked to continue his role permanently. As he entered, the crowd fell silent. The Queen's voice carried clearly through the hall. People of Eloria, today we honor those who have defended our home and those who have inspired our strength. We have learned that courage can come from unexpected places, that loyalty and determination know no species, and that the spirit of one individual can ignite the courage of many. Elias remained silent, hands at his sides. He was not accustomed to speeches, ceremonies, or praise. His life had always been about action, not words. Yet the attention of an entire civilization was not something he could ignore. Seraphine continued, her gaze resting on him. Captain Elias Ward of Earth has shown us the meaning of courage. He stood between danger and our people when we could not, led our defenders when we did not know how, and reminded us that peace is worth protecting, but only if we are willing to stand for it. For this he has my eternal gratitude. The room erupted in applause, the citizens and guards cheering for the human who had fought not for glory, but for their survival. Elias nodded slightly, acknowledging them with a quiet respect. He was proud, yes, but it was a different pride, a pride in the people who had learned to stand, in the civilization that had discovered its own strength. Princess Alara stepped forward, her eyes shining with sincerity. Captain Ward, you saved more than my life. You saved the spirit of our people. You showed us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. For that I and all of Eloria thank you. Elias looked at her, noting the maturity and leadership in her expression. She had grown immensely over the past weeks, evolving from a sheltered princess into a confident leader. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction knowing he had played a part in her transformation. My work here is not finished, Elias said finally. I taught what I could, but the true strength comes from the people themselves. They must continue to stand, to protect and to guide their future. That is your duty, not mine. Seraphine's eyes softened. You misunderstand, Captain. Your duty is not over, and I do not intend to release you. You have more to give, more to teach, more to guide. Eloria needs you, not as a guard, not as a soldier, but as a mentor, an advisor, and a symbol of courage. Elias hesitated. The notion of staying indefinitely on a distant planet far from Earth was daunting. His mind raced through memories of battles fought, friends lost, and worlds defended. Yet when he looked at the city below, at the citizens he had helped inspire, and at Princess Alara, he realized that his place here was meaningful in a way that Earth could never offer. I will stay, he said after a moment, his voice steady. Not because I am required, but because it is needed. I will do my best to guide, to teach, and to protect. That is the duty I choose. A hush fell over the hall as the Queen's expression softened into a rare smile. Then it is settled. Captain Ward will remain with us, not merely as a protector, but as the heart of our new future. Alara stepped closer to him, her voice quiet but firm. It is not easy to inspire courage, Captain. You made it seem simple, but I know the truth. It takes more than strength. It takes heart, wisdom, and a willingness to risk everything for others. You have all of that. Elias nodded, humbled. I learned from you as much as you learned from me. Courage is not just about fighting. It's about standing together, believing in one another, and protecting what matters. Outside the palace, the citizens celebrated. Light reflected off the crystal towers, casting brilliant patterns across the city. Children who had never seen combat waved flags. Soldiers marched with renewed pride, and families gathered safely, knowing that their world had been defended. Aloria had discovered that peace and strength could coexist, and that even in the face of danger, hope could flourish. In the weeks that followed, Elias helped reorganize the Alorian defenses. He trained guards in advanced strategies, advised on fleet coordination, and taught leaders how to act decisively in moments of crisis. His methods were different from anything Aloria had known, blending human experience with their own traditions. Slowly but surely, the city's confidence grew. Princess Alara worked closely with him, learning how to make strategic decisions, inspire troops, and think like a leader in times of uncertainty. Elias saw her confidence bloom, and he knew that she would one day lead her people with wisdom and courage, long after he was gone. The queen watched these developments with quiet satisfaction. Her people were stronger, more united, and better prepared for the dangers of the galaxy. And at the heart of it all was a human who had chosen not only to fight but to stay, to teach and to inspire. One evening, as Elias stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city, Alara joined him. "Do you ever regret staying?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "No, this is where I am needed. On Earth, I fought battles that mattered in the moment, but here, I helped build something lasting. Courage, hope, and strength. It's not measured in victories alone, but in the people who rise because someone believed in them. And I see that every day here." Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting the light of the twin moons. "Then you are more than a soldier, Captain. You are the heart of Aloria." Elias looked out over the city, feeling the weight of that responsibility. He had faced countless battles, yet this was the one that mattered most. Not for glory, not for fame, but for the lives he had touched, the courage he had inspired, and the civilization he had helped shape. Queen Seraphine approached quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Captain Ward, there may be more challenges ahead. The galaxy is vast and not all threats are visible, but whatever comes, I am certain of this. Aloria is stronger because of you. And so am I." Elias nodded, silently acknowledging the depth of her words. He had come to Aloria as a soldier, tasked only with guarding a princess. Now he had become a teacher, a guide, and a symbol of courage. He had discovered a purpose greater than survival, helping others find strength within themselves. The twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the city. Citizens paused to look up, sensing the calm after the storm, feeling the presence of a protector who had risked everything for them. The lessons of courage, unity, and resilience would endure long after the battle had ended. In that quiet moment, Elias realized that the greatest victories were not won through weapons alone, but through inspiration, hope, and the willingness to stand for others. Humanity had left its mark on Aloria, not as conquerors but as protectors and guides. Princess Alara turned to him once more. "Captain, we will not forget what you have done, and neither will our people. You have given us more than survival. You have given us confidence, hope, and courage." Elias nodded, a rare smile